Okay, cool.
Okay, here we go. Make sure I have this on. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for everybody that is here. I'm not sure how to turn that off, but welcome for those that are here. It's always a great time to have a webinar. I understand that a lot of people want to have in the evening time, so of course we'll go back to that time, but this is the perfect time. I'm in Hawaii, as you can see. Always makes it very nice. It's nice and warm here, and I know it's very cold for a lot of people there. So I'm sending my warmth and love that way. Enjoy. But before we begin anything, may I scan all of you? Beautiful. And let's walk up to the creator of all that is. Everybody gather all the energy from the bottoms of your feet. Go through your space and see yourself in a beautiful ball of light. It can be any color, but take it up through the sky and the universe. This series of white lights, dark lights, and golden light, all the way up through that jelly-like substance and into that tingly white light. Let unconditional love fill every cell of your body. Once you're there, say, Creator, thank you for my life. Take a deep breath in and open your eyes. Can you guys hear me? We're going to wait just a second. Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad you can hear me. Thank you. Still not hearing me?
Raina, can you wait for a bit? I think I can be having a little bit of trouble for the mic.
You're just working on some technical issues. We'll be right back in 1 second. But thanks for those that are here. I'll just send hearts out. Okay. Hopefully now everybody can hear interpretation. Of course, if you'd like to, you can always turn on your cameras so you can see what you can or can't, but I am going to talk today about freedom of choice. And I really like this one just because I'm going to use both theta healing and algorithm of you. And when we talk about choice, we're really kind of discussing about decisions that we make every single day, because these decisions can really seem challenging when we don't know how and aren't aware of the programs that we have running in our subconscious awareness. And these decisions we make are from that subconscious programming that, unless we recognize them and how our beliefs and structures are patterned and how they're created, they just run on that autopilot. And as we know in basic class, we talk about how we have those 4 levels of beliefs. Well, we know that we carry them all in ourselves, and that core, that history, genetic, and that soul. And when we struggle with choice, the real struggle comes from those programs and those patterns. But the problem is that they're being chosen for us, and not just necessarily us choosing for them. Now, if we understand it and we're aware consciously, then yes. But if on our subconscious level, that freedom of choice is coming from our subconscious choices that we've been choosing over and over again. And freedom begins when we actually shift from that subconscious survival patterns to a conscious co-creation. And so when we talk about freedom, I'm really referring not to that loud, yay, freedom, not that kind. We're, taught to chase. It's not that one, where they're like, yay. But that quiet kind, that one that's like that internal kind, that kind that lets you choose. And it's the one that's like guilt free, fear free, pressure free, and where you don't apologize. You've always been really making choices, whether it's conscious or not conscious, and whether you're taking action or reaction or not. You're making a choice no matter what. When you understand that your emotions and your beliefs and your nervous system, they all play a role in your choices, your entire life really opens up. And this is called awareness. Most people really think that it's hard to make decisions or that it can be a problem. But really, I think that if they realize that it's 90% their choice is subconscious before they've ever made that choice, then they can really take away that blame that they give themselves and of making a right choice, because then they can take it more into their own hands and recognize this conscious awareness comes from when we have that awareness. And it's not that we're weak or because our nervous system or subconscious patterns or that emotional history or belief system is really taking over. It just really is that it helps try to keep us safe. And some of those choices come down to really a lot of pressure. Pressure decides faster than any intuition, any logic, or desire. Pressure is like that emotional force that's outside of us. It really just hijacks everything, our nervous system. It makes these choices before we ever consciously consider what we want. It can come from guilt, fear, responsibility. And, when you have this pressure, it's like you have to make the decision right now. It's so urgent. And even especially when it's like people pleasing or these emotional loops that we go into, especially when it's an unhealed identity loop. When we haven't really gone into those subconscious beliefs and cleared those bottom beliefs, especially ones that are inherited from our family of expectations. Some of those things could be pressures that say things like hurry or you'll lose something.
要煮饭吗？
Say yes
弄那么多我们
or
家
they'll
饭，
leave. That's really that's like that fear one, or fix it
是他们晚
or
上吃的吗？
you'll feel guilty. Some of those are some of those beliefs that really keep us in that pressure loop that collapses our intuition, and pressure overrides truth, and it forces us into a choice that isn't really soul driven. It becomes the chooser for us, not you. It just really just takes over. And when pressure activates, it really just pulls us into that almost like survival brain, or that survival mode that we all are too familiar with from class. And when that survival mode takes over, you really choose fast and familiar and things that are ends discomfort. I don't know about you, but if I am under some sort of pressure, I have seen definitely moments in my life where I will make decisions that prevent conflict, especially when I was young. I was just on a call not too long ago this morning, talking to somebody about just these types of things and different types of pressures that we have that really push different types of reactions, especially things like conflict, keeping someone else okay, where maybe guilt was the deciding factor, or avoiding some sort of reaction. And pressure is usually the reason as to why, but really none of those options keep us aligned. They're just that coping pattern that we have learned. We call that almost like a belief loop. Belief. Try to interpret that one. A belief loop, or like a reaction algorithm. It's like where pressure says, how do I want to say this? Do what you've always done so you don't feel anything scary. And that loop just keeps going over and over until we actually change it. And your body goes into this like survival, your beliefs go into like this fear, and your nervous system, it goes into this familiarity. And I love the nervous system because it really gives you a lot of information about what's happening in your body. This is why you feel regret, especially when you say yes, or emptiness, the moment that you commit to something that doesn't feel good because you didn't choose. That pressure chose for you. The real question isn't, why are you choosing hard? The real question is, why does pressure have more authority over your truth? Because pressure is practiced. It's emotionally reinforced. If you've done it once, and I talk about this all the time, if you've done it once, like when you're a kid and you've wanted to have attention, and so you use anger to get attention, and so you use it, and then you do it again, and it gets you attention. So now you've anchored it in, and that's the way you do it. And fast forward all the way to adulthood, and now you've trained yourself that this is an emotional reinforcement that works to get you attention. Well, that pressure is the same way whenever you're using that same emotional pattern over and over, or you can have it passed down from your ancestors, inherited, and it definitely can be trained into your nervous system, especially since the safety of your nervous system is something that is the number one, or guilt, or validation of roles that you have that definitely keep you in a pattern of wanting to help and maintain your ancestors. So it could be something that feels familiar in your body. All of these pressures are meant to work in sync when we aren't consciously aware. Because remember, if it feels familiar, do we want to try something that's easy or something that we've already done, or do we want to try new? And the answer is easy, because it's something that we've already done time and time again. How often are we going out and just trying something new and without that's not like it's not uncomfortable? It's like it could be even tied to an identity. Let's say, for instance, that you're a mom and all of a sudden your kids have grown up. They're now adults, and just like that overnight, they're adults. They were 5 and 6 years old, and they've decided that they're now adults and they're going to be that way. And your identity was tied to every single thing that you did with them and taking care of them at 5 and 6 years old. And now you no longer, they don't need you. They don't need you anymore. They don't need that. And all of a sudden now you don't have an identity. It's the same thing with pressure. All those things are tied to that. And now what do? It's hard when you have to change things that have to do with your identity. And some of these points that pressure become are like protectors, or like peacekeeper strategies. When you're trying to really truly avoid conflict or keep that love intact to stay safe. We call that deeper level or layer that's like maybe a belief layer that's on the bottom. Belief is like, it's my job to keep the peace. That one could definitely be a protector type of thing. Or it's my responsibility for everybody's emotions to stay aligned, or that could be like a peacekeeper, right? The strategy. Or if I don't fix this, something bad will definitely happen. How many people do? I mean, this is like the conflict one. You're like, I want to avoid conflict. This is pressure. These choices happen because of pressure. And how often are we falling into this pressure of survival mechanism? And that survival mechanism becomes the internal pressure that we use within ourselves that really drives choices. And when pressure leaves, truth does not land. It can't, because there's too many things going on. That pressure creates so much urgency that we no longer can feel like ourselves, and we're no longer aligned with the things that we're being told from our connection with Creator. It creates this confusion about where we're supposed to go, what we're going to do, almost like a self-abandonment. as a tactic so we don't collapse or go into some second guessing that we aren't even aware of, because pressure can be so damaging that yes, our intuition can be there, but it's so loud that it just kind of it quiets it because it's so much louder. So the truth really is that you don't really struggle with clarity, you struggle with pressure distortion. And that distortion, it chooses for you. It does. So when we talk of freedom of choice, that really just begins the moment you stop letting pressure make decisions for you. That's really where it all comes down to. And your nervous system starts to calm before your truth becomes clear. That cocktail of chemicals that your nervous system starts to let loose whenever it starts to flare up because things aren't aligned, it takes over. And it doesn't allow for that choice to really anchor in and you to have clear choices, because only that pressure has taken over as authority. But there's so much more to this. So let's talk about the emotional conditioning that really is more of it. We talk about the beliefs that really go on and getting to the bottom belief and changing it. But some of the things we don't talk about are the things that our body feels. And your body feels what got love and avoided pain. Yeah, your nervous system is really trained through emotional conditioning. So what you were rewarded for or what you were shamed for is what you interpreted as good or bad. So when a choice appeared, your body scanned that emotional consequences, like, am I going to be rejected? Will somebody be disappointed? Will I lose the connection, or is someone going to get angry? All of these things are the scan of the consequences for options is the way that we are going to keep ourselves safe. Because remember, our nervous system is all about those safety options. It's not choosing what's best for you, but what's safe. And that safety is defined by that emotional pattern from when you were a child. And it all begins there. It's like that child that was choosing anger. Yes, it worked for them, but now they're using it as an adult. And some of those beliefs that are associated with those emotional patterns of safety are like, I have to earn safety. Love requires sacrifice. I have to choose myself, or if I want to belong, or I can't choose myself, or I lose belonging. These are really just why perhaps you feel anxious, even when things are good for you. Your body really just associates that unfamiliar with unsafe because it's been used to that pattern going over and over again in that loop. That's why we have belief work. That's one of the best and main reasons why we have it. So your emotional supports your truth, not fear. And when we talk about having freedom of choice, it really does just come in layers. And another one of those layers is your nervous system. Your nervous system chooses what's familiar, not what's aligned. And when choices depend on that state, it really is like that state of like fight, flight, fawn, freeze, overwhelmed. Let's think, what are the other ones? It's like hypervigilance and probably shut down. That's what I would call it. It's not like choosing from your intuition. It's that survival mode again. And you choose the fastest options, least confrontational, most familiar, and it's not going through those options of, is this going to be comfortable? Because it's like, everything's worried about discomfort. The option that you chose as a child comes right up into that autopilot and goes, this is how I answer this is how I'm going to move forward. And that's why belief work is so important. And that's often times why we go to the bottom belief when we were children, because that's where it usually anchors in, especially for our nervous system. And that's why we recreate it sometimes. And we will have clients or students come back to us and say, why do I have this belief that came up again? Because our nervous system never really learned how to work through it in a habit forming way, so that we no longer had to keep going with a safety, so that the safety was intact. So as long as we explain to our nervous system, hey, everything's safe, everything's going to be okay. So let's say, for instance, you have something that comes up and it's triggered you and it reminds you of time and place, and you can either react to it or you can respond. And if you react to it, then you've already gone past, it's gone down that rabbit hole, and your patterns of how you've done that in the past are already there. But if you can recognize it, and this is where the belief work comes in, and allow it to be seen and not actually react to it, and allow your cells to know that you're safe by whether you're not touching yourself in that nervous system. I like to always pat my chest and say, I'm safe. Then you're anchoring in this habit that's new, and creating these neuroplasticity circuits in your brain that help you form new connections and new receptors that allow for those new patterns to be rewired and retrained. And that is your brain and your nervous system not reacting in the same way. And most people try to make those choices from their mind, but because you're all theta healers, you know that that's not necessarily how we do it. But we're all theta healers, and yes, we get pulled out of things. We're not always connected to creator. We're not always, constantly staying in that connection, because we live life. We're human. We do things. And sometimes we make decisions from our emotions or logic or fear, or sometimes just that urgency just takes over. But we all know that our clearest and safest and most aligned choices come from that connection with creator, that of all that is. And that is why aligned choices feel so much more calm and spacious. That survival choice feels urgent and pressury, and creator's connection it's not a spiritual escape. It's like a recalibration. It allows you to really rise above that pressure that I'm talking about, that is placed upon your body and in that beliefs that you've inherited. And it helps you return to that state where choice is not reactive. It's responded to, but from a state of unconditional love, that pure truth. This is where choice is. It's become where it's free, truly free. It's that freedom that we're talking about. When you get to have that connection with creation. And of course, it's something that we anchor in. And the more that we do it, the easier it becomes. The easier that becomes, the less we react to things like pressure, the outside things. And when we have that connection, something profound really happens. All of those pressures dissolve. That urgency, it just calms. And that fear loses all of its authority. I love that. I love that feeling. We all know that, where that guilt can't hook you. I love the hook thing because it reminds me of a fish. In that survival mode, it turns off. It's like it no longer has effect on you anymore. It's where that clarity rises within you. That connection really just gives you that understanding of all that is. You no longer are feeling like you're out of alignment. So that moment that you're connected to creator, you stop making decisions from wounds or fear or childhood roles or anything that has to do with survival and all of those choices that you were programmed for. And that place is like uncontaminated from your past or from your future. It's in the now, right here, right now. And that's real freedom. Creator's truth is not dramatic. It's not overwhelming, and it's not urgent. It feels like a breath of fresh air. It's like a neutral calm. It's like an instant knowing. It's like that belief of just knowing. Peace that just comes over you. It's that clear direction without pressure. And we all know it feels like so lightness, right? That gentleness, that inner yes. Physically, it feels like the weather changes within you. Truly, I don't know how many times I've been in the middle of a belief work session where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating. I got to take this off. Or the other person's like, hold on a second, I need to take off some layers. I'm connected, and you kind of make it a joke because you get so warm. Because that's what happens. Your nervous system really stops scanning for danger. And yes, you get that warmth of unconditional love. And you begin to listen to that truth that's inside you. It feels so stable and so spacious. And it just feels grounded. I love that feeling. And you're not fighting your body because it just settles in. And here's how you really can connect to that creator before you make any of your decisions. Like we've all done this, but I'm just going to go through it anyway because we're in a webinar. So basically, we're going to pause before the pressure. And one of the things that I personally like to do, and this can be so fast, especially for you as theta healers, but to be able to just take deep breaths, and we should all do this together. Just take a deep breath in and out, because all you're doing is listening to your breath, and you're recognizing, and in that moment while you're listening to your breath, you can be going through the questions and witnessing the patterns that you don't want to obey. And you're silently saying, these are my old patterns, not my truth. And then you feeling it in your body. Even if there's somebody there right there with you and the pressures are outside you, it's okay to take deep breaths and relax for just 2 seconds. It's okay to become aligned. And ask creator to align. And once you are and you're able to connect to creator, your body just softens and you know that you're connected, even when it's all the way down to your toe, all the way down. And that harmony comes over you, and that choice really honors that soul and purpose. And if it doesn't, ask creator, how do I answer this question, or how do I honor this with purpose? And wait for that clear answer. An answer from creator is calm. It's full of clarity. You know, because you can feel it within you. It gives you the peace, and it's not emotionally charged. The truth arrives silent because it's meant to. It's calm. But if it's pressury, it's loud, and it's so much, it arrives just so heavy. Choosing from that soft knowing, that's alignment. That's where it's at right there, that connection. And that's the moment that you are belonging to you again. That's that freedom of choice. That's when you become that authority. It's not the pressure or the fear or the past or the future. And it's not identity. It's you. You and that connection co-creating. That's where the choice becomes connected, attuned, aligned, and you. And would you like that download that you know when and how that is possible to be aligned in your truth, and knowing when that you're aligned and how to recognize your choices for freedom? You can nod your head, put your thumb up, whatever. Because freedom is choice. Choice with that co-creation. Awesome. That was really fun today. I hope you understand what having that choice is, having freedom, and knowing that your connection is safe. And do you want to say anything, Akemi?
Okay, thank you so much.